Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Shovel Knight King of Cards. In the last round we took out our second Joustus Judge, the Troupple King, and now we're moving on to the third section of the game, Bluffs. On my first playthrough, I did not like this chunk of the game at all, but I was getting kind of tired and frustrated of the game at that point because of some stuff I was going through at the time to begin with, so On future playthroughs in this one, I like it more, but it is, I think, where both the strengths and weaknesses of this campaign really start to shine in the worst ways. Starting off though, we're in Slippery Summit adapting our Polar Knight stages. To start, when you're on ice as King Knight, he automatically ice skates in whichever direction he's facing. I'm not controlling my left to right movement outside of the actual direction shifts. And getting used to that can take a moment because you're probably so used to just holding a direction at this point, and it's very easy to overcorrect as you try to panic from it. But as long as you're very good about jumping here and again to get a better grasp and pause, it's not too hard to control on the ice, honestly. I actually really like how he feels at the end of the day. Now, the Viking enemies, on the other hand, they can be rough to deal with, only because when you're constantly on the ice, especially, they only really have an open window in front of them, as while they can be damaged from above, it's only immediately after they throw their spears. And when you're dealing with the jumping and momentum from the ice, it can be tough to stay above them long enough to really do anything with that. What I can recommend, especially in this room's case to get this merit medal, is use the Ramp Bombardier instead, as it can make that jump across just enough to actually have the explosion hit the Viking in question. I'm fairly certain on my first playthrough, my biggest issue with this level wasn't the standard platforming within it, it was how you get the third merit medal, in that I was drastically overthinking it. I made like a 4-step plan to jump this way and that way and use this sub-weapon and all that, when you just need to do a shoulder bash at a specific point, and I feel that's partially because I let the puzzle platforming nature of King Knight at times kind of get in my head a bit, because there's times where the solution in this is just that simple. Just go there, do one thing. But I'll be expecting them to me to do like a 4-step jump plan, avoiding this enemy or that, when it's super simple in comparison. In specific, right here, just shoulder bash. That's it, you're done. I guess it's technically a 2-step plan because you need to jump a little early on that previous platform to get to the first one, but oh well. The ice skating on the thin platforms is not exactly super threatening outside of the actual width of the platforms themselves, and especially moments like this. Oh god, okay, we're good. In a way, it's kind of like just a more easy-to-control variant of Spectre Knight's skating mechanic, considering I think it's even the same base sprite for the platforms we're on right now. But the bigger threat here is actively just the screen-scrolling partnered with the relative distance and health of the Vikings if you try to deal with them normally, which in this case I just say, screw it, it's not worth taking care of that last one. Whee! Now, I could continue along the Polar Knight themed levels at this point, but instead I'm going to go after our first Tinker Knight themed level, as I'd rather get access to the Joustus house around here pretty quickly, even if I don't actively access it for a good bit still. I think I wait until nearly the end of the area to do it this time around for some reason. I think I was just wanting to get more action done rather than have to sit through a bunch of Joustus for once. So, something I do really appreciate about most of this game's structure is that, especially in King Pridemore's Kingdom and here in Bluffs, they give you access to every level aesthetic and all that at once, just only one level of each. In that regard, Troupple King's Kingdom is actively the only time they don't do that. You just start with one of his levels, but you gain access to the other level aesthetics pretty immediately after that. This stage is notable in my head for honestly having probably one of, if not the earliest alternate exit for the length of stage it ultimately is. And to start, we're going to be dealing with a bunch of conveyor belts, the torsion lifts that we've seen already, that were more in the later campaigns than in Shovel of Hope, if memory serves. Big thing here, dash into one, the others will raise or lower depending on their positioning. Kind of a puzzle figuring out which place is safe when it's not, but I actually really like doing this fully because the momentum, especially in moments like this with them, makes to keep even auto-scrolling interesting. And they keep the placements varied enough where you can never really predict where the ones from off-screen are going to come from, so you kind of always got to be on your toes. This route does remind me about something that I kind of touched on in the other campaigns a little bit, if memory serves. Frustration, but specifically in terms of how it's tied to progress. You see, yeah, King of Cards has much shorter stages than the earlier 3 campaigns, but also each of those stages had 3 or 4 checkpoints on average as opposed to 1, or in the very rare case, 2. So while a death is less costly in terms of screens here, in terms of the overall stage percentage, it's arguably more costly to take a death in a case like that right there, and then go all the way back to the start of the stage rather than one of the 4 checkpoints across a level in the earlier 3 campaigns. And what kind of compounds that, I think, as well, is the amount of stages in the game and seeing them on the world map. Because, for instance, I'm going to use Plague of Shadows and Shovel of Hope as the specific example for this, because they actually have a world map as opposed to a stage select like Spectre of Torment had. Say you get a lot of shit in Tinker Knight stage, but you finally beat it. When you finish that stage and you go back to the world map after that, you have at most 2 levels you can access after that in terms of main levels. And since you know they're going to be radically different mechanics as well, you're probably, at least for a breath of fresh air, maybe something you can have a little bit of an easier time with, especially with whatever power-ups you got in Tinker Knight stage or whatever money you got there as well. Here, if that same thing happens, in most instances you're going to see like 5, 6, 7 levels ahead of you, and sometimes 2 to 3 of those might be a mechanic you either don't like from an earlier campaign or otherwise, leading to King Knight's campaign arguably being the most dread-inducing if you're having a lot of difficulty with things, which can definitely lead to it having a more negative memory in you, I would say. Hell, that's the case with me, honestly. I like this campaign now more than I did back when, getting a little ahead of myself. But honestly, I think this is now my least favorite campaign out of the 4, because as much as I prefer the fact that it has original level design to, say, Plague of Shadows, I think what Plague of Shadows does for mechanics when it comes to Plague Knight himself, or the narrative especially, is just more fun for me to deal with while dealing with the stages, even if they are largely the same things we've already seen before. And it's weird to say that, because I am very much a comparison is often the thief of joy kind of guy. I like to look at everything I play on its own merits, as well as then compare it to other things so I can go, okay, I like how this game handles this type of idea more than that one. But this other game here has this, this, and this that I think are really neat ideas. But I think some of you can understand me when I say it's really easy to specifically compare the Shovel Knight campaigns, even say more than like a Mega Man sequel. Because, while yes, you can purchase Shovel of Hope, Spectre of Torment, and King of Cards separately, Plague of Shadows, just due to its similarities to Shovel of Hope, is still locked behind Shovel of Hope specifically. Because they are all available as one mega package through Treasure Trove, it's just incredibly easy to compare these games in specific because they all come at once. Turn my key! Turn my key! Okay, well for this we gotta get him a little close to the wall and then do the twirl onto his key. And it's alive! I love this guy's sprite so much, I think it's adorable. Beep, beep, and beep, beeper, beep. Thank you for reactivating me, Weesh. Talking automaton? If you can talk, then you can repay your debts. Do something, you brass boob! Access granted. Heirloom is now available for purchase. Shop now. Here we get the final of the game's sub-weapons, the Gyro Boots. Become a damaging tornado that can climb walls. Purchase complete. Thank you. Please proceed to the goal. Bzz. Warning, shoulder bash disabled. The Gyro Boots are a sub-weapon I really need to give more chances to use in the rare case I revisit King of Cards, because it does have a lot of potential, I just seldom ever think to use it. What happens is when you use it, you become a constant moving hitbox that spins around like Crash Bandicoot, that starts green, goes red, and then eventually goes gray when your time is out. Whenever you run into an enemy or a dirt block or even a wall, you bounce upwards, and if you're careful about it, you can also just continuously hold a direction towards a wall to bounce up it multiple times. You can also use it to ignore certain hazards like these gears, which the twirl jump also allows you to do. But in the case you either lose it due to hitting a certain enemy a certain way, or you miss a jump, or you don't have a way to access the twirl jump to begin with, like these walls being near you, it's pretty useful for that. I think my biggest issue with it is that we get it just late in the game enough where how I approach a lot of situations is kind of set in stone, and the new sub-weapon like this will just kind of fall away in my head, effectively, if that makes sense. I completely admit that's mostly a me issue. There's plenty of places you could use that on moving forward. I just seldom think to because I get it so late. Congratulations, you've reached the goal. Thank you, Master. Awaiting further input. Oh, I'll put you in steerage. The chicken will surely extract some value from your clanking chassis. Input accepted, Master. I love you, Master. Weesh. And with that, we've once again gotten another NPC for the Glide Wing. This one will be a little heavier. And that also means we got another Joustus duel we can do should you want to go for all the Joustus cards. I'm only just noticing that thing has a claw that comes out of its head. That's adorable. This tower is a sight to behold. Engineer's Tales did not prepare me for this mechanical marvel. Alright, so this puts us up to what, 80 merit medals? Ahem. I hesitate thinking of home at the last, my family sat by the hearth holding fast. And here as I shiver and stagger and fall, the biting wind scarcely feels chilly at all. Actively part of the reason, by the way, I'm waiting on the Joustus Hall in case I didn't say the reason for this earlier, is I want to get as many cards built up from opponents like TMK or the other traveling champions across Burger Bluffs first, because that way I can be a little more prepared for the duels in there, as they can be kind of rough. Ship's almost at capacity. Looks like our little cause is building ahead of steam. This is why I fly. Our goal looks like it's in sight now. Sorry if I droned over long, sometimes that's the ruminant in me. It's been good to chew the cud, Kingman. I'm confident things will work out great for both of us and our crew. I really like Doe, if I haven't said that before, by the way. He's just so sweet, and also I'm going to steal his hat one day, because that hat looks really comfortable. Now that the map's moving around and we have access to the next area, though, it's time for us to go back and actually duel TMK. Gems detected in volatile buffer. Dispensing for master. Beep, beep, beep. Please take your cash. Bye, thank you. Recreation deficiency detected. Commence Joustus subroutine? Sure. Beep, beep, beep. It's party time. TMK is going to showcase two new mechanics that you'll see a lot in this section of the game. The little fan icons at the bottom left of some cards, and the double arrow with a shockwave around it. Let's start with the latter. That's known as a conveyor arrow. After you place that down, it'll try to push in that direction every turn, even if there's not a card there. So if you place one at the top left, within 4 turns, it can actively be in the graveyard tile on the far right. Additionally, there's the little fan icon on the bottom of some of those cards. That is a real game changer. That's called Cascade. Whenever you push a card with that for the first time in a duel, any cards pushed by it will swap to the other team until the end of that game, or if they get hit by another Cascade, or if they're removed from the field by other methods via like a bomb. That means in some cases you can actually use that to steal gems just by pushing 2 cards at once. It is a fantastically aggressive strategy, and it's one of my favorite to use in late Joustus games to begin with. But it does run the risk of overextending and potentially getting hit by another one of those yourself, so you really gotta be careful with it. With that said, time for our next Polar Knight theme level. Welcome to Spinwolf Sanctuary. One of the main focuses of this level is the floating snow blocks we've already seen in other campaigns, where when you touch them, they fall straight down and can cover spikes up to make them no longer lethal. Now partner that with having to do it a bunch with your shoulder dash in midair, and you make for some pretty cool little level design choices. With that said, and I think this is just a reaction for me specifically, I always feel more at danger in a level with constant spikes like this than one with a lot of bottomless pits, because thinking about it, in terms of the amount of pure potential instant death punishment, this level isn't really that different than a lot of the other ones in the campaign. But because it's specifically spikes, I am panicking slightly more mentally. And I think that really is just an impact of playing as much Mega Man as I have over the years, because that's like the de facto, oh, I'm doomed, factor in my head, I guess. In that regard, it is always kind of fun finding out, like, what series someone played based on what kind of fears in gaming they have. Like, a lot of Sonic fans, for instance, have a fear of water levels because of the drowning theme and the trauma associated with that. I imagine people who played any kind of Soulsborne games relatively young see a human-sized boss and kind of at least flinch a little bit, for instance. Although I say that, like, what is the closest thing I can think of to, like, a super youth-friendly Souls-like? I guess it would be that a Crab's Treasure game from last year. I heard that one was pretty neat. I think I only saw like a single boss fight of it when a friend of mine was streaming, and I didn't stick around too long because like, okay, this looks neat. Maybe I'll check it out if I end up liking this genre, and well, from that I should really end up probably checking that out at some point, but there's other games on that list first. We can go up above the left side of the screen here, and I'll give it this. That's actually one of the few times where it feels like a convincing place you actively can't go up to. I missed this area quite a few times in my first couple playthroughs. If only because the amount of that tile next to each other looks intentional enough to the point where, okay, maybe I can't go up there. But no, this is where the alternate exit is. The alternate exit here deals with a mechanic we saw a couple times there at the very end. Spin wolves that shoot out fire orbs that bounce along the ground. They themselves will still actively charge at you if you get too close to them. But if you keep your distance, they're just going to stay up there and keep firing their fireballs at you until you eventually get too close. And even then, actually, because of their rate of movement and how slippery they tend to be, them moving towards you is actually beneficial because they're more than likely going to actively go off the platform in the case of this alternate exit. Also, I'm trying to remember the layout of the map really quick. I want to say going through this alternate exit constitutes one of the fastest paths to the Joustus Judge at the end of this area. So if you're just trying to get through the game as fast as possible, not a bad choice to go this way, too, because this isn't that long of an alternate exit. In fact, we get so close here that if memory serves, we automatically get a cutscene here on the glide wing like we have in the other two regions of the map so far. Yeah, we do. King Knight, good thing you're here. We were just looking out the window at... Ah, hold me, honey. You're safe in my arms, dear. I won't let you go. The sky is thick with birders. I've never seen them in a frenzy like this. Birders coalesce as we approach the final Joustus Judge. Ominous. Indeed it is. Do be careful, King Knight. We've come too far to lose our champion. Yeah, we are getting pretty close to the Joustus Judge, and also this is one of my favorite skylines in the game. I love that so much. Nighttime skies to begin with are one of my favorite looks to begin with, and it's a shame most areas you can't really see a lot of the stars anymore due to light pollution. So, at this point, I end up buying the final armor from King Pridemore. However, like with the other 3 playable knights beforehand, the final armor you can buy is just an cosmetic difference. You look shiny, you have sparkles behind you as you run, you got a different running animation. It's just an expensive thing to spend money on. Notably, this is actually the last normal costume that King Knight gets. Unlike the other 3 playable knights, there's no hidden costume that does something or other. Sort of. There is another color palette you can access by completely maxing out your gold, but I've never actively seen that myself without Googling it, as that takes a lot of grinding. Future me, I normally tell you to go do a thing, but spare yourself the time on that one. Honestly, that just sounds like it would be kind of annoying. Notably, we've also now unlocked the ability to go fight Polar Knight, which we will be doing probably early next part if I had to guess based on my memory. So the latter half of the main path of this level also focuses on the red spin wolves. However, in specific, it more accurately deals with how they can interact with the ice version of the dirt blocks, in that they can actually completely break them on their own. Meaning, if you leave one to their own devices long enough, they can quickly remove platforms that are either keeping you safe or give you an easier platforming route through the section ahead of you. The first couple of instances of it aren't too dangerous, as while there is instant death, usually you can at least see what's directly ahead of you and there's solid ground nearby you can get to. But during the final section of the level, all you have to walk on are snow blocks. So if you let one stay around too long or just get distracted by it for too long, I'd actually recommend just blitzing past it, honestly. You can very quickly find yourself careening into the bottomless pit, which admittedly, by this point in the game, between items like the Bubble Frog or the Flame Saber, you at least have a way to get some extra air time horizontally or vertically if you're trying to get yourself back up to a place. I'd personally recommend the Bubble Frog over the Flame Saber, because using the Flame Saber here, you're going to break the platforms yourself. But, you know, be careful. The Blitz Steed can also be pretty useful for taking them out from a distance, so you don't have to worry about them trying to run into you in the meanwhile. Right here, I do actively use a mechanic of the turncoat sub-weapon I kind of underutilize across every playthrough, in that when you activate the turncoat, you actively exit a twirl jump state. So if you're trying to land safely on a platform below you without breaking, in the case it is one you can break, just activating the turncoat will be enough to keep you safe. In that regard, for keeping yourself safe during platforming, underutilized champion, honestly. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 11, we continue on through Bluffs. See you guys then.